video. I'll probably have to take it down, but I got a phone call right in the middle of it, and I'm using my phone to stream. So happy times. And it turned out to be a junk mail call. So that was an unnecessary interruption. Anyway, here we are again. Let's get to work. I actually don't have a huge amount of time, but I just wanted to jump on and get a little work done. And if you are around and you can join me, say hello in the chat so I know who's here. Hope you guys are doing okay wherever you are today. And there you go. So this is just me working on my stuff here. I don't know. Oh my God, we already have a guest here. That's good. Hello to Nolster. Those damn telemarketers. Oh my God, dude. My if I were Batman, I would hunt these people down and I would make it so they could never dial a telephone again. I tell you. I saw some really neat. Oh, it's probably a TikTok video or something or other. These two guys somehow figured out how to hack into these one of these Indian telemarketing sweatshops, you know. And in the one case, they actually hacked into the camera on the dude's computer and were like describing what he was wearing and stuff. And the of course they were able to sort of film it or video capture it from their computer, and it was pretty hilarious in its own way. But yeah, it's disgusting. I mean, the whole I don't know how to say this, but it's like the criminality is the norm in the world. You know, it's the norm, not the exception. Uh, Especially in non-white countries. And you know, I know right away we've got okay. Well, what about the Russian mafia or the da 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 da? We could go on and on. I'm not saying that we're pure as the driven snow and yada yada, but I think on average, I think we can fairly agree with those things. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a part of the world that we live in. Unfortunately, there's so many things in the world that we have to live with. Like, oh, that's the way it is. And I've never ever been able to do that. Like, I just not comfortable with just accepting things being wrong in the very very many ways that they are. It's tough to be like a kind of a moral person in a immoral world or whatever. Let's see what else is going on. So how do you know what's going on in your world? All right. Yeah, things have been pretty crazy lately with me. So it was recommended to me to put on some what's his name, Frank Sinatra ballads. And when you're putting music on for a show like this, you don't want to have to stop every 3 minutes to go fast forward the commercial or all that fun stuff that you have to do. So I just try to find whatever you know is good to go, and usually like a full album or something. Oh, yeah, a little Christmas spirit going on. Um, I don't know where you are, but it's still snowing in some places. Today is March 17th, I believe. And yeah, March, it's like that. You can kind of feel spring wants to come out, it wants to come back or whatever. And everybody is so anxious to not have snow anymore. There's really, if you grow up in a kind of like a snowy area, it's very romantic and nostalgic for the first couple months, kind of, yeah. And I would say that up to Christmas, I'm fine with it. But, I'm always like, okay, after that, just cancel it, like we won't be needing any more. Thank you. And it genuinely does get depressing. I don't know how people live in places like Alaska and stuff like that. I've always thought it was interesting too how, like, if you look at a map of Europe and look at, say, the longitude of countries in Europe compared to states in America, and then you can kind of say, like, oh well, where I live, if I follow the longitude line, that might be Milan, or that might be Frankfurt, or that might be you know Minsk, or whatever. I don't know, Budapest, or whoever, wherever. And that's kind of a fun thing to do. But it seems like most of Europe, or a lot of Europe, is quite cold. It's like above the Canadian border, actually. Let's read Nolster's comments. Just being a wage slave, yeah. What kind of pen are you using for outlining in California where it only rains? Haha. Um, it's Fudenosuke. Fudenosuke. 素晴らしい。これはペンのは is very nice. I like to use a nice pen to inking comics. ありがとうございました. So there you go. That was me emoting my Japanese inner spirit, my ninja manga spirit for you. And yeah, so now there's a bunch that I have. I've got some pretty sweet ones, to be honest, but these, these are kind of the ones that are easiest to get at my local art supply store. They're fine. I don't seem to have one, like one of the fancy ones, within reach at the moment. I'd have to dig, but I have ones that have like longer brush ends to them, and they're meant more like you would hold them like a Chinese calligraphy brush. That's the proper method for holding a calligraphy brush. This is how we hold brushes in the West, not brushes, marker brushes, painting, whatever. Actually, if you're painting Western style, this is how you hold a painting brush. I do happen to have one of these bamboo brushes handy. This is the kind you would use for Chinese landscape painting, calligraphy, and you have like a huge amount of range with your whole arm. There's a kind of a martial arts aspect to it. This is obviously way too fat for like doing comics, but anyway, this brush tips by Donald Kent. There you go. So anyway. Moving on. Um, oh, you had a question, or you said something earlier. Wage slave, California. I guess the question was about the brush. Yeah, so I drove across country years ago to visit some friends in the West Coast, and actually I've been to the West Coast twice. One were for uh, a girlfriend, and another one was more adventure, blah 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 stuff. But around the sort of, well, so one was in the kind of LA area, the other time was in the San Francisco area. Um, I say, what else can I say about it? I mean, it's tricky because you know, California is it's such an amazingly beautiful state, like physically beautiful, just wow, stunning. Um, I just have to say that, like, and I was talking to my son about this the other day, how, of course, the politics, right? We know, there's the states that are kind of like the Democrat run Marxist paradises, and I couldn't. I'm biased a lot by that. Like, I think about how that is, and I'm like, it doesn't matter how beautiful it is, how good the weather is, and all that, whatever. Like, I just couldn't ever live there, just strictly because of the politics and the culture. Um, but it's not really funny, but like the one thing that happens a lot is a sort of I don't know, not a phenomenon, but like a thing. I don't have a word for this. Um, there's many, many states that are known as like these liberal conclaves, whatever, enclaves, and there's tons of. They're really more red states, but their cities are controlled by Democrats. So, and New York is that, for example. I know that there's a huge part of California that is red, and these people don't really get any, like, we don't know anything about them. They don't have any, other than like, oh, they're bad, they're white, something like that. Um, um, so it's kind of weird, how we perceive, I don't know, the media controls perception so much. I mean, we're a media culture now, and I think ever since television that really started, and so there's something to say there about like how are we even talking about like how we're managing the way that the internet is warping us into some kind of unnatural thing. Um, on that topic, like some people online, I think it was on Twitter, we were chatting about like how the younger generation really fell for the transgender propaganda, and to me, it's off. I don't know how to explain this, but like, I don't see how you could somehow be convinced by media that maybe you are another gender that is not your physical body. I don't. To me, that you have to be either literally insane or profoundly stupid to somehow buy into something like that. Um, and maybe both, So, but it's happening, it's horrendous. So what do we do? It's good to see a lot of conservatives out there fighting that stuff now too. Like, it's sort of like, okay, this is it. You've gone too far, kind of thing. But can they fight? I mean, we're. I think so many people just don't get the reality of the way the system works and how it's unbeatable. Other than through means that I'm not allowed to talk about. All right, let's see who else is here with us today. We've got Colin Bruder, and I'm very happy to have you here again. So I've been able to do a lot of these live streams lately. There's some stuff going on in my life where I'm able to squeeze this in more. I might have to take a. Oh, most of California is red. It's the cities, though. Yeah, precisely. That's my point. See, I think I don't know how to say this, but it's like we have the like Jim Morrison said, we've got the numbers. We do have the guns too. But we're normal law-abiding citizens who don't want to do illegal, insane things. Yet we're being, forced to live with people who want to destroy us. And so it just feels like, well, when is it all gonna pop? Like, well, how long can this illusion last? How long until people finally, you know, truly wrap it up? So I just heard the door slam upstairs. My son is home from school. He might come down, and that'd be okay. Down to my studio. So let's see what we got here. So this little shot that I'm doing right here, you can see that, you have your rioters up here, burning, killing, looting, and then you have a kind of a passage in this screen where, you have a cop is taking the handcuffs off of this guy. The black judge is like, hitting the hammer, and there's a sort of a flow where, this one's walking out of one door and then coming out, the same person coming out on this door. And here you're gonna see these same cult members, and they've all got weapons and stuff. So like, it's a sort of a little portrayal of the justice system, that we're living in. When you own the courts and the police and the media, what's stopping you? Nothing. If there's any more comments here, hello to Conch. Good to have you back. Good afternoon, CP. It's funny how it's afternoon where you are. I mean, it's afternoon here. I'm sorry. I think you're in England, so I think you're probably 5 hours ahead. So maybe that's evening. I don't know. Anyway, nice to have you guys. What you got going on today? I guess you got this going on today. Checking out a little YouTube action. It's interesting when you're drawing, you're a lot of times just making like sort of abbreviations or symbols of things. Like this guy's taking off some handcuffs. Well, what do handcuffs look like? So the context of the image kind of explains what you're looking at. But then also the shape of things. There's something about the way the eye works that we only really need to see the shape of a thing to recognize what it is. And it's just an interesting visual effect that you use when you're doing comics and stuff. All right, what else is up here? Let's see what you got in the chat. Sup? Welcome, Crusader. Do you write about the story, then illustrate? Okay, good question from CP. So I will kind of give you a sort of a short look at that kind of deal. So you start off essentially with an idea. I've been thinking about ideas for this graphic novel, and I've written many like graphic novel. I know this is a little large here, but I write the outline and then I do essentially this stuff, which is, let's see if I can set it up so you can see it properly. Yeah. I'll sketch it out very roughly. I'll put in the text, the dialogue, the sort of special effect sounds, bam, boom, crash. Then I will send an image photo of these to the guy that does the lettering, so he knows where to put the word balloons and how. There's all kinds of graphic devices with word balloons. Like minutes later, you have a little caption, and then that's overlapping this word balloon, but it's called the carrot, but the little line that goes from the balloon to the mouth has like an electrical zigzaggy shape to it, so that gives you the sense that he's speaking from within the airplane. See that there's like many devices. Lettering itself is a kind of an art form. The pacing of the story, I can control the pacing, the mood. Here they're going into, this is actually the part of the story I'm starting to get into, where they go into a big battle scene. Obviously it's very sketchy and mushy and crappy looking, but I know what it means. There's when you're in the written phase of it, it's very hard. It takes a lot of time to structure, like, okay, here's a big overview, you have a beginning, middle, end, and then I have to kind of tie that together. I want to have action like at least every 3 pages or something, and make it flow real nicely. I've got to fit in lots and lots of character development. I've got to flesh out the relationships of the characters. If they enemies, friends, how well, like we've got one guy who, like these 2 characters right here. Move the phone a little bit, hopefully you can see it. But you have like essentially a fascist anti-hero, and like then there's Militiaman, who is the Captain America normie good guy. And the fascist character used to belong to MAGA Force, but he quit. And like, for example, I'll read this little page to you if I can. I'm trying to get it so you can see the whole thing. So the fasci guy says, "Ever the slave to your emotions, eh, Stephen?" Stephen is a militiaman. His wife, she says, "So you didn't tell him." They're speaking to this old man who rescued him, which you guys saw that. And she's saying, "You didn't tell him. We agreed that we agreed to this only if Militiaman was on board. He will be. He ain't ready for the truth. Neither were you. And so now Militiaman is meeting these sort of fascist heroes that used to be on his team, and they're starting to argue. This guy's called Westguard. He says, Westguard, you broke your oath to protect America. You've gone rogue, crime fighting without a permit. With your level of superpowers, this is a federal crime. And the fasci guy says, that is exactly what I'm doing, keeping my oath to defeat enemies, foreign and domestic. The government is corrupted beyond repair because democracy is shit. I serve only my people, heritage Americans. The people and the land are one. Democracy must die to restore our constitutional republic. This is the true meaning of fascism. Make God, family, and nation great again. And so that's pretty heavy stuff. Donald, how do you feel about your fellow art teachers? Oh, we'll get to that. So down here, Militiaman's like, oh, come on, take off the tinfoil hat, guys. This old man's got you thinking crazy. And then the fasci guy speaks to the old man who saved Militiaman. He says, Michael, it's no use. This prima donna is just a poster boy for the big lie. That's the problem with pretty boys, all twinkle and no brains. So and then bam, they go right into a fight. Like Militiaman has had enough shit and he starts fighting. Like you get to, it'd be like, I don't know, be like Superman fighting Superman. They're not that high powered, but they're superheroes like this. So I go into a big fight scene. I guess I'll just do a little tiny bit more. There's a little bit of fighting, and then the other fasci characters, they try to separate them because they're actually like friends from before. They used to be teammates. And there's, get off, he throws them off. Then the fasci guy has like laser beam eyes and he shoots out at Militiaman, zaps him good, and says, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And so the fasci guy like throws him down, and the sound effect of Militiaman hitting the ground is Trump. So there's a kind of you can fill in the blanks there. He's saying, didn't you ever learn to respect your elders, Zoomer? So I'm playing with like intergenerational tensions here. You Republicards just don't get it. You cannot beat the establishment when you're part of it. And slam, he smashes Militiaman's face into the ground. So I'm revealing to you where the story's going with those 2 pages. Now, that's just one of the conflicts that exists in the story. It gets deeper and deeper. But answering your question about art teachers, what time is it, first of all? So, yeah, it's hard to answer that nicely. It's, how do I say, like, when you say you want to be a teacher and you go into teaching, and I have a teaching certification, a state, approved certification, and a master's degree. So when you're like, you think about any kind of industry, there's the people of that industry, and what are the norms of the culture of that industry? Like let's say if I were working in a police station, what would the culture be with those people versus working, I don't know, in a hospital, or versus working in a classroom, and that kind of thing. So like schools have their own kind of culture, and teachers are kind of, expected to be, excuse me, teacherly, excuse me, in the sense that, they have a certain set of values, and employers like those values, and they want you to be a model teacher, and according to what they believe that is. And so you have a pretty wide range of people in the profession, and many of them are fantastic people. So I'm not gonna like, poo-poo them or whatever, but I would say that to be a teacher, you for starters, you have to be like a hyper person. You have to be physically hyper. You have to have like massive extra amounts of energy that you don't know what to do with. A lot of women that are in teaching are very controlling. They have some sort of need to tell people what to do. And I think, many of us have that experience with various people that we've known in our lives where you're like, oh, you better get that thing done or you're going to get yelled at, you know. Well, like that's a lot of teachers, female teachers have that kind of a persona, if you will. They're persnickety, you know what I mean? They're very picky, highly detail oriented kind of people. I'm really not those things. I am a much more laid back kind of person. I'm more alternative in the regard of like what's the best way that you can learn, rather than like force kids into a mold kind of a thing. I mean, I'll never go back to teaching. I don't. It burned me out super hardcore. There were nice experiences. There's, you know, if you're built for it, it's fine. I'm really not built for it. So that's just the whole thing is that I have to just move on and use my skills elsewhere. So I don't know. I could actually do a whole show on that topic. But let me check the chat. Hey, Elfric, good to have you again. Another day, another stream. Yeah, I've been doing a lot. Um, Good to see you again, you too, sir. What's That's fascinating. I find when I'm writing that the characters sometimes develop a life of their own, and plot twists happen that sometimes surprise me. Has that happened for you? Very, very cool question. I love like you know nerd talk on like writing arts, comics, whatever. All these music like this is a lot of fun. Yes, I that method that I just showed you, where I'll have like, you write the outline and you just pop in all the structural things that have to happen. That's like yeah, it's a structure. I don't know what to call it. It's a formula per se, and then inside that structure, and when I'm working, like I said on like say, on this stuff, with all the storyboards, that's where the real creative action is happening. And I'll work for a while, and then I'll hit a mode where I'm like, shit, that one thing is that one problem. I'm not resolving it well enough. Like it's mediocre, and I don't want this to be mediocre. I want it to be like freaking awesome. And so I'll take some days off to kind of think through like, okay, what would be a more dramatic way? What would this person say or do in this situation? And sure enough, sleep on it a bit. Next thing you know, you're solid. You got a really cool idea and you're super excited to write it down. And so yeah, I feel like the creative process is one in which you create the environment for creativity, and the environment means like you have to have those literary structures laid out. You have to have the concept laid out. You have to have some idea of the characters, how to demonstrate their personalities. Like a lot of times in good theater, movie, comics, etc., you'll learn about somebody by how they reacted or responded to a situation. You see what I'm saying? And just by that alone, you judge the character of that person, and you know them to whatever extent. So, but yeah, it's pretty neat how the creative process works. That to me is almost the heart and soul of it all. Is like the like this. What I'm doing now is the grunt work. You know, the writing and developing, and like, 'cause so when I'm storyboarding, that's writing. It's visual writing. You know what I'm saying? I'm showing the story. So I would say that like authors, short story writers, etc., should try out writing scripts. Script writing for either, you know, whatever, TV, film, comics, especially comics. It demands that you show the story. So when I was teaching comics, which I did for years, I would always repeat, show me the story. Don't tell me the story. Show me the story. So like if we look at this panel on the top here, we can see that Militiaman is narrating over the top of a scene of a riot. And then here, all we're doing is getting the reaction shot. That's just the reaction shot. This is very, very standard TV production stuff, you know. And you, as the audience, what you're doing is you're projecting or mirroring the reaction of these people. You're relating to them in some way and saying like, yeah, man, fuck those writers, man. What the fuck, man? Oh my god, I can't believe all this. This is like outrageous, you know. That you're building up emotion in people and such, and then this, you know, pile more on that. The plot thickens. You know, oh, guess what? They're not just rioting and killing, but they're getting off the hook and going back out there and doing it again. This total lawlessness. And then rah, the audience has to freak out. You know, now they're like, you know, of course, Militiaman yells like, well, we're not going to tolerate it or whatever, you know, and rah, everybody. So when you have this kind of thing, human beings are social animals. We react to things. We react to each other, you know, and so that's drama right there. Only I show it and then add words to support what it is I'm showing. It's not the other way around. It's very hard actually for writers, in my experience, and I'm not knocking writers, I'm not going into that, but writers and people who want to go into comics, for example, they will have like grand ideas like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then they'll send you a script and it has like 10 million words on it. And I have to send it back and say, this isn't going to work. And then they go, oh, shoot, what did I do wrong? You know, how do I fix it? What's going on? And many times I've had to teach writers like, okay, this is how it works, you know, and then I'd go through, I would like edit whatever it is that they sent me and rewrite it in a kind of form that it should be in. And they would be like horrified at how much I took out, which I get, you know, there's a certain, you know, it's your writing, you know, when somebody takes shit out of your stick, oh, wow, what are you doing, you know? But you get the general idea. And then they realize, like, you know what, you're right, I get it. This is a different medium. You know, in writing alone, you have to add more detail. You got to do that, you know. Anyway, so that's what is going on. And like I said, this is supposed to be a shorter stream. So yo to who is here? I'm trying to. Kenny. Hey, Kenny. Oh my God, your drawings are so good. Why, thank you. That's a kind thing to say, Kenny. Good to have you here. Give me 1 second. I have to check the time. It's 2:30. Okay. So I hate to say this, Kenny, but like I kind of have to wrap this up. This is a short stream. I have a billion other videos on my channel you can go check out. Lots and lots of cool art streams. But like it says in the title, it's a short art stream today. Agreed, it's really coming together, Kenny. Oh, thank you kindly. Yeah, much, much more to come, guys. I love you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and join me. Look for me on the internet.